Should you buy the M3 MacBook Air or the M4 MacBook Pro? Well, in today's video, we're going to find out. So if you are excited, drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel, let's get on with the video. Recently, I bought the M4 iPad Pro. I've been using it for the past few days, 3-4 days now, and have been doing everything on this iPad Pro. I completely switched from my 16-inch MacBook Pro to this beast of a device. This is the 13-inch iPad Pro. It's the M4 version, the 256GB model, and it's brand new. It has the Apple Pro Pencil here, as you can see, Apple Pencil Pro. I have the Magic Keyboard also. So yes, I've been doing everything on this device. It's super thin, super light, super portable, and with the Magic Keyboard, it's actually a pretty simple laptop alternative. Yes, laptop alternative. Because with this right here, you don't have a laptop replacement. This is my biggest thesis of today's video. This is not a laptop replacement. This is a laptop alternative. It's a different form factor for a computer. This does not completely replace your needs for a MacBook, and the MacBook does not completely replace the needs for an iPad. They are both different. They are both different form factors for the same thing, a computer. What is a computer? That expression from the Apple ad is very, very strong, because that's true. What is a computer? Our phones, like the iPhone 15 Pro Max, they can be a computer. Our iPads, they can be a computer. Our Macs, they are computers. So, at the end of the day, why buy an iPad Pro as an alternative to a MacBook Air, for example? They cost about the same price. The MacBook Air costs around $1,200, $1,300, depending on the size you choose if you go for the M3 generation. And the iPad Pro, it starts at $1,200 for the 13-inch size, 256GB model, the same storage setting as the MacBook Air. It has the M4 chip, while the MacBook Air has the M3. But the iPad Pro has one thing that the MacBook Air doesn't. And if you need to use your iPad as a laptop replacement, you need to go for the Magic Keyboard, and you need to go at least for the Apple Pencil. I do believe that the Apple Pencil is a nice perk to have on your iPad Pro. Most people don't use their Apple Pencil nearly enough to justify the $150, but getting the base version, the $80 version, or even some cheap third-party accessory pencil for your iPad Pro will make lots of a difference. Because the iPad's touchscreen enables lots of things that the Mac cannot do. Remember, the Apple Pencil is truly the only exclusive feature that the iPad does have and takes advantage of over the MacBook Airs. But all of this, together with the $1,200 iPad Pro, $400 Magic Keyboard, and $150 Apple Pencil, the iPad Pro base model is way more expensive than the base model MacBook Air. And I'm talking about the 15-inch version. If you compare the 13-inch version, oh my god, that's way cheaper. The 13-inch version starts at the M2 chip at $999, and you can get the M3 at $1,100, $1,099. So yes, for like $500 less, you can get the same size screen MacBook Air, which is great. You can get the newer design MacBook Air, which is also amazing, super thin, super portable. You get the Magic Keyboard, the touch trackpad, the haptic touch trackpad. You get two USB-C ports. You get a MagSafe port. You get macOS. So lots of things that you get with the MacBook Air that you don't get with the iPad Pro, which is also way more expensive than the MacBook Air. So you're probably thinking right now, well, the MacBook Air is a way better computer. It runs macOS, it has better hardware, and it's cheaper. Why would I buy an iPad Pro? Doesn't make any sense, right? Well, that's where I need to disagree. Because the iPad Pro can do anything that the MacBook Air can do. Almost. It can video edit on Final Cut Pro. I'm doing just that. I'm editing all of these videos that you are seeing right now on the iPad Pro. It can do Logic Pro. It can do emails pretty well. It can do PowerPoint, Excel, Word. Most of apps have versions for iPadOS. And the file system is a bit janky, but you can use the file system on the iPadOS. You can use Safari. You can use any type of web app available. So most of the things that you normally do in a MacBook Air, not in terms of high-end workflows, no, but the simple stuff that people do on the MacBook Air, you can do on the iPad Pro. Simple as that. So there's people that like to take off their iPads, say, well, today I want to use my iPad simply as an iPad, no need for this Magic Keyboard. They go into the sofa, they browse the web, they like to read their emails, they use the touchscreen, they like to play games on the touchscreen, really cool, with their kids. They give their iPads to their kids and they love their iPad, they watch movies on the moving car. So the iPad is a much more natural device for younger kids nowadays because it's touchscreen, because we were raised on a touchscreen generation And the input method of the keyboard and the trackpad, it's like getting old now. And nowadays kids love touchscreens. Almost every display needs to be a touchscreen for them to understand. And so touching the iPad is way more natural. That's why I do believe that this is the form factor of the future for the laptop. Right now, we adults, we are still used to this trackpad and keyboard. But 20 years from now, kids that are growing right now, they are kids 3, 4 years old right now, they will get used to touchscreens, they will get used to the iPads that they love to use, to watch movies, to play. And so the iPads will be the form factor of the future. I have no doubts about it. And with that in mind, the iPad Pro can do almost anything that the MacBook Air can. This can connect to external monitors, you can use Stage Manager, you can have several windows open at the same time. This has 8GB of RAM, the base model MacBook Air has 8GB of RAM. This has 256 base storage, the MacBook Air base model has 256GB of base storage. This has the Magic Keyboard with the complete keyboard, so now you have the function row. This has an amazing tactile keyboard. The trackpad is haptic, also has the MacBook Air. A bit smaller, actually, it's way smaller, but it's usable and it's super portable. Now, it's almost as light as the MacBook Air. Currently, the iPad Pro is the thinnest device Apple has ever made. This is extremely thin, but when you put it on the Magic Keyboard, well, this becomes super thick. I mean, not super, but thicker than a MacBook Air. A bit thicker and a bit heavier, but the thing about the MacBook Air is the complete package, while the iPad Pro is like a transformer. You can do lots of things with it. You can transform it on an iPad, simple, portable, and light. You can use it on the full power mode with the Magic Keyboard, the laptop mode. You can use it on the canvas mode and use the Apple Pencil to do things on it. So the iPad Pro can be lots of things, can be lots of form factors at the same time. While the MacBook Air, it's simple. It's a simpler computer, can do only computer things. You cannot use the Apple Pencil with it. You cannot touch the screen, which lots of people love to do. And if you want an Apple touchscreen Mac, then wait a few years or buy the iPad Pro right now. Because this device is almost as that. You can connect an external monitor to it. You can use Stage Manager, works pretty well. You have all of your commands and shortcuts with the trackpad and the keyboard on the iPadOS, so they work pretty well if you are coming from a Mac. And I like iPadOS. I don't think iPadOS is that bad for an iPad. I think that the iPadOS needs a bit more flair. Needs the file system from the Mac, definitely. Needs more support for the everyday tasks that the Mac does. So those simple computer tasks that you do on your Mac, like connecting USB-C printers, connecting to printers, all those basic stuff that you do on a Mac that you may think that you can do on the iPad, but you can't. You can connect any type of USB-C device here and use it. You simply can't. You can connect external storage devices here and use them on the Files app. You can, but like using a USB-C printer, using any type of calculator and transfer files from the calculator to the iPad is very difficult. So I do believe this needs to be a bit more free. It does not need macOS, although it would help, needs a bit more flair to the OS, a bit more power, a bit more freedom. And currently, iPadOS is closer to iOS than it is to macOS. I do believe it needs to be a blend between the two. It does not need to be a macOS only device, and it does not to be an iPadOS only device. It can be both. That's the beauty of the iPad Pro. I do believe it could be this iPadOS device that it is right now when you are using it only on the iPad form factor. But when you connect it to external displays, I would like to see more of a macOS OS. So Samsung does this right now with their Samsung tablets. You can connect their tablets to an external display and it will turn on Samsung DeX mode, just like their smartphones. It's actually a pretty cool idea. But I do believe that the iPad screen is big enough to do that here also. So 13 inches, it's big, it's as big as the smallest MacBook Air. So I do believe that would be a pretty big win for the software side. But enough of the software, I know it's the biggest comparison, but to summarize this, I just want to tell you. If you do want touchscreens, if you do want a simpler computer, if you do want an easier computer to understand nowadays, then the iPad Pro, although it has lots of flaws in terms of the system itself, a computer system, it's still more simple, it's still more intuitive because it's a newer type of OS, it's touchscreen, so lots of people understand this more nowadays. So I would go for the iPad Pro. And yeah, I don't know if you do need the Apple Pencil, but if you do need the Apple Pencil, iPadOS is really well optimized to use the Apple Pencil. So if you do need this, you like this to sign documents, you like your Magic Keyboard, then this is a pretty nice alternative to a Mac in terms of the software side. As for the hardware side, this is where the iPad Pro actually takes the highlight because the iPad Pro hardware is way better than the MacBook Air. It has a better chip, it has a better display, it has almost as good of a keyboard has almost as good of a trackpad. It has two USB-Cs, one on the Magic Keyboard, one on the iPad. One is Thunderbolt, one is not, but one charges at 60 watts. It does not have MagSafe, but I don't need it. It does have a good pair of speakers. I think it's almost as close to the MacBook Air. It has a quad speaker system, almost as good as the MacBook Air, or at least as good as the MacBook Air. It's super thin. Yeah, I don't think it's as thin as MacBook Air. No, it is definitely thinner than a MacBook Air. This is actually ridiculous. This is 5 millimeters thin. Insane. Every time you pick it up and take it off the Magic Keyboard, you notice how thin and light it is. It does have the Apple Pencil. This is a huge hardware advantage. It has a camera system on the back, so you can take photos and scan documents with the back cameras. It does have the amazing Face ID system, so lots and lots of advantages over the MacBook Air. But the MacBook Air does have a bigger battery, does have better battery life, and it definitely has more USB-C ports. Because of the MagSafe port, you can have one more free USB-C port. And with that hardware, it gives you more power on the software side. It is more professional, gives you more options for different programs. You can install a virtual machine and run a virtual machine. If you need to run Windows, of course, or Linux, or whatever you want to do. So these are two different computers. Do you need a more traditional computer that runs more traditional programs, more traditional OS? If you need that, then the iPad Pro is not the option for you. It does have lots of limitations in terms of hardware and software side and software support. So in that case, I would go for the MacBook Air. But otherwise, if you have money to spend and you want to spend on the iPad Pro and you are thinking, should I buy the MacBook Air instead? Well, in that case, I would go for the iPad Pro. And let me explain you why. Because I do believe that the iPad Pro form factor is more fun. I do believe if you are using an iPad Pro right now, this iPad Pro, with the next few updates for iPadOS, although this is a lot to ask from Apple, and the track record is not that great, I do believe this has some future. I do have hope still for the iPad. Every time that Apple makes these big upgrades to the iPad, I think that Apple will give it macOS. I'm joking, but I think that Apple will give it more powerful features, and every time I get disappointed. But this time feels different. This time, Apple has finished their Apple Silicon transition, so now all of their Macs are in good hands. Now, the iPad needs some love, and Apple is recognizing it that. They are giving the iPad Pro the love that it needs. And now, on WWDC, we need to see the revolution, the renaissance that the iPadOS team needs. So, yes, let's hope that Apple does the right thing. Let's hope that Apple creates a monster of an upgrade for iPadOS 18. And if that's the case, then between these two devices, I would like to recommend the iPad Pro. But right now I can't. I can make a recommendation between two devices. One is an alternative, one is a computer. So if you are into alternative form factors, if you love touchscreens, if you love using your hands to control your devices, if you love the Apple Pencil, if you want the M4 chip for some reason, if you don't care about iPadOS, if you have no needs for specific software that does not run on the iPad, well, in that case, go for the iPad Pro. But if you do want any type of specific software that does not run on the iPad Pro, check that. And you want a traditional feel for a computer. You want to use the keyboard and mouse only. You don't really care about the Apple Pencil, a touchscreen, an OLED display. You want the traditional way. You want the MacBook way. In that case, well, iPadOS is only found on the MacBook Air. So for that, you'll have to go for the MacBook Air. To finish off, there are two sizes for the MacBook Air, the 13-inch and the 15-inch. The 15-inch is cheaper than the combo of the iPad Pro with 13-inch iPad Pro, the Magic Keyboard, and the Apple Pencil. Think about it. So you can get the 15-inch MacBook Air base model for less than the iPad Pro, Magic Keyboard, and Apple Pencil. Think about that. While the iPad Pro is present in two sizes, 11-inch and 13-inch. The 11-inch is too small to be a laptop replacement, in my opinion. That's more of an iPad Pro with a Magic Keyboard. But it's too small, the keyboard, the Magic Keyboard is too cramped, and the screen is 11 inches, so it's even smaller than the base model MacBook Air, the small size 13-inch. So if you want a laptop replacement, or at least a laptop alternative, go for the 13-inch iPad Pro. It won't disappoint. Even thinner, even lighter, and a huge screen to compensate. So, in this case, the iPad Pro has two sizes, 11-inch and 13-inch. The MacBook Air has the 13-inch and 15-inch. Both MacBook Airs are cheaper than the iPad Pro. So, yeah, the iPad Pro is quite expensive. In any case, let me know in the comments below what you think. Which of these devices would you choose? The M4 iPad Pro with the Magic Keyboard or the MacBook Air? And if you choose any of these, let me know in the comments below why. Because I would like to know, my audience, I would like to know what are your preferences. And I know I'm telling you that the future is the touchscreen Mac, but do you think it's a touchscreen Mac? Because if it's a touchscreen Mac, we already got the iPad. Why would you need a touchscreen Mac? I don't know. I don't know if this is the future form factor of a computer. I do believe it will be, because of the simple fact that every day new people are born into the touchscreen device only with their smartphones, and now like they are growing up, they're going to learn how to use their computers only with their hands, touchscreen displays. So I don't see the future in 20 years for the Mac unless it evolves to something into the iPad or they morph into something different. But it's something interesting. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Thank you guys for watching. Drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel. This is me, Tex, talking to you here. Bye-bye.